Morning, good afternoon, good evening. I have said on this platform and many others that Chamisa is a corrupt, incompetent, and utterly useless leader. He is just an upstart who is given to boasting and making grandstand. The big silverback gorilla drumming his chest, all to no avail. But of course, we have got Zanu PF supporters who want to cherry pick. When it suits them, they want to give the impression that Chamisa is a very powerful individual. And here is a video clip that one of them has just sent to me to remind me of Chamisa, some treachery and betrayal of the country.
Ndakabvamo ndapinda mudenmark, ndakabvamo ndapinda muuk, ndabvamo ndapinda mugermany ndichisunga hwanisunga dhasi.
He was just boasting. Anyone who really seriously believes that the West would change their foreign policy because Chamisa asked them to is naive, to say the least. He wanted his constituents, his supporters, to believe that he's powerful. And unfortunately, they've always believed him. But the truth of the matter is, the West was not going to change its foreign policy just because Chamisa asked them to. And it is interesting, actually, that even Zanu PF itself has always dismissed MDC leaders as puppets of the West. Hence, the picture I've got there, some of you may remember it from Sound of Music, the puppets. And I think Zanu PF is right in that regard. The MDC have no more than just puppets. They've not really articulated anything that one could say is original. So it's very hard to give them credit for anything. But lo and behold, when it comes to sanctions, all of a sudden, Zanu PF and their supporters, they're adamant that MDC leaders are so powerful, they are the ones who are dictating to the West what foreign policy they should have, at least regarding Zimbabwe. I find that laughable. So yesterday, Zanu PF was saying MDC leaders are puppets. And today, they want to tell us that MDC leaders are dictating to the West. Are we now to say the puppets are now pulling the strings of the puppeteers? And it is the puppeteers who are doing the 360-degree contortion of the body and torso and head and limbs in a jive. I think that is nonsense. It should be dismissed as such. The tragedy with our silverback posting about he is the one who called the sanctions. Sunga one, Sunga doesn't. Should be dismissed with the same contempt as his claim that he had stopped Zanu PF rigging the elections. He had plugged all the vote rigging loopholes and many such similar claims. Those are just empty claims. It is a pity, of course, that his followers have been so gullible, so naive, and ignorant that they've believed all these lies. And in the last case of I've plugged all the vote rigging loopholes, they believed him, and so they participated in the election. And this is, for the record, this wasn't the first time. They were conned into believing in 2018 rather, that MDC Alliance had stringent measures to stop Zanu PF rigging the elections. And so they participated. In 2013, the same thing. The tragedy here is, of course, every time they participated in these flawed elections, they've given vote rigging Zanu PF legitimacy and thus perpetuate the dictatorship. Believing some of Chamisa's boastful claims have had devastating consequences for the country. Chamisa is gearing for the 2028 elections already. And signs are they'll be making the same idiotic claims as he did last year. And guess what? The same individuals who believed him will do so again. As long as you participate in these flawed elections, you give the Zanu PF legitimacy. That point cannot be overstated. After 44 years of rigged elections, it really is heartbreaking that the nation should find itself locked, stuck in that position. Do we really, as a people, we don't really know? Is it because we don't know what constitutes free, fair, and credible elections? Is that the reason why we keep repeating the same mistake? Are we that gullible that we keep believing Chamisa's idiotic? They are idiotic. And I don't make an apology for using that word. How can you say you've plugged vote rigging loopholes when you don't even have a verified voters roll? Even on election day itself, you didn't even bother to deploy election agencies at all the polling stations, although he had been given the money to do so. And yet, the head, the wildebeest head out there, believed him. And they are ready to believe him now. One of the most common comments I get from some of these video clips or articles I submit in the various medias and so forth is that we will continue to support Chamisa. The irony of it is some of them say it as if they're punishing me by continuing to support Chamisa. No, you're not punishing me. You're punishing yourself. Perpetuating the Zanu PF dictatorship is not punishing Gullibility Mokori. It's punishing yourself and the nation. Zimbabwe is a failed state, and we've become the world's textbook case of a failed state. Corruption is so rampant that 80% of our gold is being smuggled. And most of the loot is then creamed off to bankroll the vote rigging machinery to keep Zanu PF in power. Right now, Zanu PF has become so powerful that removing it from office is not going to be a walk in the park. Anyone who wants to think otherwise is being naive. Look what they did last year. They had the money to bribe all the key officials involved in the election, right from the village head, right up to the judges and ministers. The village head got motorcycles, and by the time we got to the judges, it was US $400,000 housing loan. Ministers, $500,000 US. They all knew, of course, that they didn't have to pay the loan, to repay the loan. This wasn't a loan. They all knew this was a bribe. And they all knew what was expected of them. And when each one of them accepted the loan, cashed it, Mnangagwa just ticked. This one is in the pocket. This was in the pocket. As far as I know, none of them ever returned those loans. If it was coming in the form of a check, they all cashed it. So changing Zimbabwe is not going to be a walk in the park, but it can be changed. That is the point. In this particular case, one way of forcing the regime to change is to stop participating in flawed elections. How can you keep on participating in a process that you already know that is so flawed, you're not going to change the result? But by participating, you give the process legitimacy. And you've been participating again and again and again, conned by an upstart, claiming that this time we're going to win. I can tell you now, in one of his video clips, Chamisa was posting that he'd already started setting up his cabinet, ready to be sworn in as the president of Zimbabwe. He knew, of course, he wasn't going to win those elections. He just participated because he also knew Zanu PF is offering a few gravy train seats for his friends. And he, as the leader of the party, you get a cut of the Political Party Finance Act payout, annual. And party leaders generally get about 20% of that, tax-free. He can't possibly complain about that. That is all MDC, Triple C leaders have been after all these years. And it is naive for the people to keep on participating in flawed elections like that. We need to learn. We need to stop being so gullible. I think the biggest failing for Zimbabwe would be for the country to go through another rigged election in 2028. We can avoid it easily. But as long as we have got so naive and gullible individuals, it will be easier said than done. Thank you very much for listening, and have a good day.